August 20th, 1941. 10:42 hours, the road to Leningrad. 22 German Panzers roll through the countryside. Hatches open, commanders smoking, some laughing. The war is almost over, at least that's what they believe. 300 meters away, buried in the earth at the edge of a swamp, 5 Soviet tankers watch them approach. The gunner's hand rests on the firing lever. The commander's eye is pressed to the periscope. No one speaks. No one breathes. They have their orders. Hold this road or die trying. In the next 30 minutes, one KV-1 will destroy the entire column. And the road beneath those burning wrecks will earn a new name: Tank Alley. Operation Barbarossa was 2 months old, and the Soviet Union was dying. 3 million German soldiers had crossed the border on June 22nd, the largest invasion in human history. The Red Army never saw it coming. Stalin had ignored every warning. On the first day, bombers caught 1,000 Soviet aircraft on the ground, destroyed them before they could take off. The Panzers didn't wait. Minsk fell in 8 days, 300,000 captured. Smolensk fell in 6 weeks, 300,000 more. By August, the Wehrmacht had advanced 600 kilometers. Army Group North was closing on Leningrad, the city of 3 million, the birthplace of the revolution. Hitler didn't want to capture it. He wanted to erase it, and his panzers were 48 kilometers from the city limits. Then the Germans met something they didn't expect. Near Rossinier, a German anti-tank crew engaged a Soviet tank. Standard procedure. They fired. Direct hit. The shell bounced off. They fired again. Another hit. Another bounce. The tank kept coming. It took 2 days to kill that single machine. They finally brought in an 88mm anti-aircraft gun and shot it in the back while other tanks distracted it from the front. The crews called it the Russischer Koloss, the Russian Colossus. Its real name was the KV-1, 50 tons of steel, armor 90mm thick, more than double what German tanks carried, a 76mm gun that could punch through anything the Wehrmacht had, and the standard German anti-tank weapon, the 37mm Pak-36, useless. German soldiers started calling their own gun the Heeresklopfgerät, the army door knocker, because that's all it did, knock. The tank inside didn't answer. But there was a catch. The Soviets had fewer than 1,000 KV-1s, and in the chaos of the retreat, most were lost before they could fight, abandoned without fuel, bombed on rail cars, overrun in depots. By mid-August, the Luga line, the last defense before Leningrad, had collapsed. German panzers poured through the gap. The Soviet command scrambled to find anything that could slow them down. They found one thing: a company of 5 KV-1 tanks, and a commander who knew how to use them. August 19th, 1941, Krasnogvardeysk. In a cathedral basement, 48 kilometers from the German lines, a meeting was about to take place. A meeting that would decide whether Leningrad lived or died. A meeting where one man would receive an order that should have been a death sentence. But Senior Lieutenant Zinoviy Kolobanov had survived death sentences before. Major General Baranov didn't waste time. He stood over the map table in the cathedral basement, candlelight flickering across his face, and pointed at 3 roads leading into town from the west: the Luga Road, the Volosova Road, and the Kingisepp Road. 3 roads, 3 possible German attacks, maybe all at once. He looked up at the man across from him.
Сколько у тебя танков?
Senior Lieutenant Zinoviy Kolobanov stood motionless, 30 years old, face weathered beyond his age.
5, товарищ генерал. КВ-1.
Baranov nodded slowly. 5 tanks against 3 Panzer divisions. The silence stretched. Somewhere above, the rumble of German artillery finding its range.
Ты перекроешь все 3 дороги. Ни один немецкий танк не войдет в этот город.
He paused, eyes locked on Kolobanov's.
Стоят насмерть.
Every Soviet soldier knew what those words meant. Hold your position until you're killed. Do not retreat. Do not surrender. Kolobanov didn't flinch.
Есть, товарищ генерал.
He saluted, turned, walked out into the fading light. 5 tanks, 3 roads, 12 hours to figure out how to stop them. As Kolobanov approached the motor pool, memories surfaced. Christmas Day, 1910, a village too small for maps. His father left for the Civil War, never coming back. He was going to be an engineer. The Red Army had other ideas. Drafted in 1933, armor school, top of his class. Then Finland. 3 times his tank caught fire. 3 times he climbed out of the burning wreck. He watched friends cook alive in their machines, learned what burning flesh smelled like. They said he'd been nominated for Hero of the Soviet Union. He never got it. Someone claimed he showed mercy to Finnish prisoners. In Stalin's Soviet Union, that was enough. Arrested, interrogated, stripped of rank. By Barbarossa, he was a man with a black mark on his file, a talented commander the system didn't trust. Then the Germans came, and suddenly, the motherland needed men who knew how to fight. No apology, no ceremony, just new orders. Hold the road or die trying. Kolobanov stood in the courtyard watching the horizon. Somewhere out there, German Panzers were moving. Commanders sitting on turrets, smoking, laughing. They had rolled through Poland in weeks, France in days. Now they were 48 kilometers from Leningrad. Nothing had stopped them. Nothing could stop them. That's what they believed. Kolobanov gathered his commanders at the motor pool. 5 tanks, 5 crews, 25 men total. He spread a hand-drawn map on the hood of a truck. The paper was creased, stained with oil. 3 roads, 3 approaches, 3 ways to die. He studied the terrain. The Germans advanced in columns, tanks bunched together, racing to outpace their own infantry. Fast, but vulnerable. If the lead tank stopped, everyone stopped. If the road had been blocked, the whole formation would have been trapped. The trick was finding the right place, somewhere they couldn't go around, somewhere one tank could hold against many. He found it. The Volosova Road passed through swampland near Voiskovice, soft ground on both sides, no way off the road without getting stuck. And at the center, a T-junction where 2 dirt tracks met, Killbox. 1 tank, dug into the tree line, could cover both approaches. The Germans would have nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, funneled straight into his guns. He made his assignments. Lieutenant Sergeyev and Junior Lieutenant Lastochkin, Kingisepp Road. 2 tanks cover the western approach. Lieutenant Yevdokimenko and Junior Lieutenant Yegtyar, Luga Road. 2 tanks covering the south. Kolobanov himself would take Volosova alone. That was where the main German thrust was expected. That was where the fighting would be heaviest. If someone was going to die first, it would be him. Tank number 864. Kolobanov walked around it slowly, checking every bolt, every track link. 50 tons of steel. His home for 6 weeks. His coffin if tomorrow went wrong. The KV-1 was a monster. Armor 90 millimeters thick on the turret, 75 on the hull. A 76 millimeter gun that could kill anything the Germans had from a kilometer away. But it had its weaknesses. The transmission was unreliable. Gears ground, steering fought back. The turret was slow, hand cranked. If enemies flanked you, you couldn't turn fast enough to track them, and the tank was heavy. Half the KV-1s lost in 1941 weren't destroyed by the enemy. They were abandoned when they broke down or got stuck. But tomorrow, they wouldn't be moving. They'd be dug in, waiting. And when the Germans came, they'd find out what it felt like to knock on a door that wouldn't open. His crew gathered as darkness fell. Senior Sergeant Andrei Usov, the gunner, 32 years old, former artillery instructor. He'd fought in Poland and Finland. Calm, precise, the kind of man who could thread a shell through a gap the size of a dinner plate at 800 meters. Foreman Nikolai Nikiforov, the driver, built like a farmhouse, hands like shovels. He'd driven tanks since 1937, knew every sound the engine made, every groan of the transmission. Nikolai Rodnikov, the loader, 20 years old, quiet, fast, could slam a 76mm shell into the breech in under 4 seconds, even in the dark, even when the tank was rocking from enemy fire. Pavel Kiselkov, radio operator and hull gunner, the voice of the tank. He kept them connected to the other crews, relayed orders, watched the flanks. 5 men, 1 machine. They'd fought together for 6 weeks, knew each other's rhythms, knew each other's silences, knew who to trust when everything went wrong. Kolobanov called them together.
Tomorrow, we hold the Volosova Road.
No speeches, no inspiration, just facts.
The Germans will come in column. We let the scouts pass. Motorcycles, armored cars. We don't fire until we see tanks.
He drew in the dirt with a stick. The T-junction, the swamp, the position in the tree line.
First shot takes the lead tank. Second shot takes whatever's behind it. Then we shift to the rear of the column, box them in.
He looked at Usov. The gunner nodded.
We don't stop firing until we're out of ammunition or we're dead.
Silence. The wind moved through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, the flicker of artillery on the horizon. German guns getting closer.
Any questions?
There were none.
Then load the tanks. Double ammunition, armor piercing. We move out at 0400.
They worked through the night. The standard load for a KV-1 was 114 rounds. Kolobanov ordered them to carry over 200, 2 full combat loads. Every shell they could fit. The interior of the tank shrank. Ammunition crates stacked on the floor along the walls, under the seats. They'd be fighting in a metal box stuffed with explosives. One penetrating hit, the whole thing would go up like a bomb. No one complained. 2/3 armor piercing, hardened steel designed to punch through German plate. The rest were high explosive for infantry and trucks. By 0300, the tanks were loaded, fueled, ready. Kolobanov climbed into the commander's cupola and looked east. The sky was still dark, but the horizon had a faint glow. Not sunrise, fires, villages burning. The Germans were coming, and in a few hours, the road to Leningrad would either hold or fall, and 5 tanks would decide which. They reached the position before dawn. Nikiforov eased the KV-1 into a shallow depression at the edge of a tree line. They reversed until only the turret was visible above the ridge. Hull down, textbook ambush. The crew camouflaged the tank with branches and netting. By the time they finished, the KV-1 looked like a shadow, a trick of the light. 300 meters to the junction, point-blank range. Kolobanov set his landmarks. 2 birch trees at the far end, landmark 1. When the lead tank reached those trees, Usov would fire, then they waited. Inside the tank, the air was thick, hot, the smell of diesel and sweat and gun oil. No one spoke. Rodnikov checked the shells for the 10th time. Kiselkov adjusted his headset, listening to static. Usov's hand rested on the firing lever, motionless. 5 men in a steel box, waiting to kill or die. 0700 hours. German bombers passed overhead. Junkers, a dozen of them, heading for Leningrad. The crew watched through periscopes. Minutes later, distant thunder. The city was burning again. 0900 hours. Radio crackled from the Luga Road. Yevdokimenko's voice, broken by static.
Contact. German tanks on the southern approach.
Gunfire in the background. Then silence. Kolobanov tried to raise him. Nothing. Either the radio was dead, or Yevdokimenko was. They were on their own now. 10:30 hours. Movement. Dust rising in the distance. The growl of engines. Motorcycles first. German scouts. 3 of them. Riding fast. Every instinct screamed to fire. Kill them now. But Kolobanov held.
Hold. Let them pass.
The motorcycles roared through the junction and disappeared down the road. They never even glanced at the tree line. Crew exhaled. Now the clock was running. The scouts would report the road clear. The column would follow. 10 minutes, maybe 15. 10:42 hours. Dust cloud, bigger this time. The unmistakable clatter of tank tracks on dirt. Kolobanov pressed his eye to the periscope. Shapes emerging from the haze. 1, 2, 5, 10. They kept coming. 15, 18, 22. 22 German tanks. Panzers and checkmate 38Ts rolling in tight column, hatches open, commanders sitting on turrets, confident, relaxed, some smoking. They had no idea. Kolobanov watched them approach. 300 meters, 250, 200. The lead tank reached the birch trees, landmark 1. Kolobanov spoke one word.
Fire.
Usov squeezed the trigger. The KV-1 rocked. The 76mm gun roared. Thunder and smoke and the hot brass smell of spent propellant. 300 meters away, the lead German tank exploded. The shell punched through the front plate, detonated the ammunition inside. Turret blew off. Flames erupted. Black smoke poured into the sky. Column stopped. German commanders looked around, confused. Some pointed at the burning wreck. Others scanned the tree line. They thought it was a mine.
Second tank. Fire.
Usov adjusted. Fire. Another explosion. Now they knew. Hatches slammed. Turrets spun. But they couldn't find the source. The KV-1 was invisible in the tree line.
Rear of the column. Box them in.
Usov traversed, found the last tank, fired. Direct hit. The rear panzer lurched sideways, blocking the road. The trap was closed. 22 tanks, 1 road, swamp on both sides, nowhere to run. The Germans panicked. Some reversed into each other. Some left the road, sank into the soft ground up to their hulls. Tracks, spinning, mud, flying, going nowhere. Usov worked through them. 1 shot, 1 kill. Traverse, reload, fire. Rodnikov fed shells into the breach. 4 seconds per round. Brass casings piled on the floor. The Germans fired back, wildly, desperately. Their 37mm guns barked. Shells slammed into the KV-1. The tank rang like a bell. Sparks flew. Nothing penetrated. The door knockers were living up to their name. 1 German crew spotted the muzzle flash. Concentrated fire, hit after hit. The camouflage netting caught fire. Observation periscope shattered. Kolobanov switched to backup, kept calling targets.
Tank at 2 o'clock. Fire.
Firing.
The turret traverse jammed. Shell had struck the ring mechanism. The turret wouldn't turn. Silence inside the tank. Then Nikiforov's voice, calm as ever.
I'll turn the whole tank.
He threw the KV-1 into gear. 50 tons pivoting on its tracks. Not graceful, not fast, but enough. Usov found his angle. Fire. Another German tank died. The battle lasted 30 minutes. By the time Kolobanov's gun fell silent, the road was a junkyard. 22 tanks are burning, smoking, scattered like broken toys.
Ammunition count.
Empty, Commander. Everything's gone.
98 armor-piercing rounds, all expended. He radioed the 2nd KV-1. Degtyar's tank rolled forward and finished what remained. Another 21 vehicles were destroyed. 43 tanks total. 5 Soviet KV-1s, 0 losses. When the smoke cleared, the crew climbed out, legs shaking, ears ringing. Usov lit a cigarette with trembling hands. They slowly walked around tank number 864, counting. Dents, gouges, scorch marks, places where armor had buckled but held. Usov counted under his breath.
153, 154, 155, 156.
156 hits. Not a single penetration. Kiselkov laughed, not from joy, from the impossibility of being alive. Nikiforov stared at the burning wrecks.
They knocked. We didn't answer.
The road to Leningrad had held, and the place where 43 German tanks died would earn a new name, Tank Alley. September 1941. The paperwork arrived 3 weeks later. Nomination, Hero of the Soviet Union, the highest honor the motherland could bestow. Every member of the crew was put forward. The award sheet made it all the way to Leningrad front headquarters. Someone picked up a red pencil, drew a line through Hero of the Soviet Union, wrote in the margin, Order of the Red Banner. No explanation, no signature, just a single stroke that erased everything. The crew was decorated quietly. Usov received the Order of Lenin. Nikiforov got the Order of the Red Banner. Rodnikov and Kiselkov received the Order of the Red Star. Kolobanov got his Red Banner, a fine medal, just not the one he'd earned. His superiors didn't believe the report. 22 tanks destroyed by one crew? It sounded like propaganda. They sent inspectors. The inspectors found the wreckage still burning, counted the hulks, matched the numbers exactly. Didn't matter. The nomination was never reconsidered. Leningrad was under siege. 1 million people were about to starve. No one had time to revisit paperwork. Kolobanov went back to war. For 3 more weeks, his company held the approaches to Krasnogvardeysk, fighting every day. Ambushes, counterattacks, desperate holding actions. On September 15th, the war caught up with him. His tank was behind the lines, refueling in a cemetery near Pushkin. Routine, safe. A German artillery shell landed 3 meters away. Shrapnel tore through the turret, into his head, into his spine. They pulled him out unconscious, barely alive. He spent the next 3 years in hospitals. The war ended without him. Kolobanov survived, returned to duty in 1945, just in time to miss the final victory. Served in East Germany after the war, court-martialed in 1951 when a subordinate defected to the British zone. Not his fault. Didn't matter. Another black mark. He retired as lieutenant colonel in 1958. Moved to Minsk, worked at an automobile factory. He never spoke about the war unless someone asked. And when he told the story of August 20th, 1941, people laughed. They thought he was exaggerating. No one could destroy 22 tanks in 30 minutes. He stopped telling the story. In 1980, the villagers of Novy Ukhoz demanded a monument. They remembered. They'd seen the burning tanks. They wanted the world to know what happened on their road. The army agreed, sent a tank for the memorial. They couldn't find a KV-1. There were none left. So they sent an IS-2 instead, close enough. Kolobanov attended the dedication, stood in front of the wrong tank, accepting honors for something most people still didn't believe. He died in Minsk on August 8th, 1994, 83 years old. The red pencil mark still sits in the archives. No one ever found out who made it. War is decided by numbers, divisions, tanks, kill ratios. But on August 20th, 1941, it came down to 5 men in a steel box, 98 shells, 30 minutes, 22 German tanks burning on a road outside Leningrad. Zinoviy Kolobanov never received the medal he earned. The bureaucrats didn't believe him. The inspectors confirmed the kills. The paperwork sat in a drawer. The red pencil mark stayed. The war moved on. So did he. But the road remembers. In 1980, the villagers of Novy Ukhoz demanded a monument. They'd seen the burning tanks with their own eyes. They wanted the world to know. If you drive that road today, past the swamp where 5 Soviet tankers waited, past the junction where 22 German tanks died, the villagers will tell you a story. They'll point to the monument, the IS-2 on its pedestal, barrel aimed down the road toward the old kill zone. And if you look closely, they say you can still see it. Scorch marks in the earth, faded now, but still there. 156 hits, not a single penetration. The Germans had a name for their 37mm guns, door knockers, because that's all they did, knock. And on August 20th, 1941, they knocked on a door that never opened. If you want to follow another great story about a soldier who outsmarted an entire German squad, check out our video here.